Big Satan is mad at little Satan. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahawashi, Bahashim Chahal. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect. Shalom Barakathum. And the news today, I didn't have a lot of time. Work was crazy today, but I've been keeping the news and checking in with things. You know, the first thing I hear is the first ever time I ever heard Trump drop the F-bomb, you know, related to the matters over there between Israel and Iran, because Iran had last minute missiles that were already sent off before the ceasefire. So they hit Israel. You know, he gave them two 12-hour periods, 12 hours, I believe, for Iran to respond. And then by 24 hours, there would be no more responses from Israel. All right. And Iran sent their missiles and hit it before the 12th hour, I believe. And then Israel responds and drops a big payload of explosive ordnances on them. You know, did an airstrike, a very large one. Okay, and he says they don't know what the F they're doing. You know, and so now Trump is getting on to the small hats because it's looking like this whole exchange was a play to save face. Okay, they gotta look small, or they gotta look tough, you know, in front of their respective enemies. You know, it looks like they struck a deal with Iran. Iran said, look, you know, we gotta respond or do an attack so we don't look weak in front of our people. You know, and America did theirs so they don't look, you know, weak in front of their people. And it's just a psyop and a game being played, man. But the term, you know, from the Iranians, he called America Big Satan, all right? And he calls, you know, Israel Little Satan. And those are very fitting names because they're both the devil, you know? And so now you got this public infighting, which isn't going to last for long because ultimately, you know, the small hats really run this thing, you know? But it is proof that how easily divided this thing can get and how easily this thing can go left or to the right, you know, because people think that they got an idea of what's happening or what's coming, but the Lord is in the midst of all of this, man. Okay, he stirs up the minds of these different men, like in the book of Jeremiah, it speaks out or Salakia, no, not Jeremiah. He said, I will put the spirit of the stir up the spirit of the Medes, you know. Speaking about those Russians, man, you know, because the Medo-Persian Empire, all right, they were the ones that took down Babylon, you know, in the ancient world. Okay, is the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, and the Persians end up taking over the Medes entirely, you know, but that spirit of the Medes is coming back, you know, because that's the spirit that's in the earth right now, is to take down Babylon the Great. Just like back in the ancient world, other nations wanted to take down Babylon, you know, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Okay, so when the Lord is speaking about stirring up the spirit of the Medes, that's the case right now. They're ready for this guy to go away, man. BRICS is already set up for their financial system to replace him. All right, these alliances are being had, these military alliances between China, Russia, and Iran. Those three countries are the new Eastern Bloc. Okay, that's the new Eastern Bloc that's going to go against the Western Bloc. Okay, which is largely NATO. Okay, which is America, you know, the EU and its subsidiaries. Like you got Australia, you got Japan, you got South Africa. You know, but really South Africa is a part of BRICS, so they really don't even have that from an economic standpoint. You know, and Turkey is mentioned also in the scriptures. All right, when you read Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, they're gonna turn. They're a part of NATO right now, which is amazing. They're still there. They're gonna turn and side with Russia, man. And ultimately, they're gonna be part of the coalition that goes down and fights. You know, I forget if Turkey has nukes. Right now, I believe they do, or if they don't, they probably do, but just not on paper, you know, because Turkey is a major country, Okay, you know they're they're a very strategic part of the the Eurasian relations. Okay, because they sit right in between, you know, Asia, what Esau calls Asia, and what Esau calls Europe, because really it's all one continent. Anyway, you know, these these are interesting times that we're living in, man. You know, but the fact that Trump is trying to manipulate the public because he's getting blowback, okay? Because I believe he's just like Nero was in the ancient world. He's got a major ego, and although he takes orders from the elites, he's got an ego to satisfy, man. He doesn't want his legacy to be tarnished or to be spoiled. So while he's got debts to pay to the small hats, which I believe is not a financial debt, even though they paid him a lot of money. It's more of a blackmail thing. All right, it came out that Trump is a woman said that Trump was definitely a part of the Epstein thing, and she actually had sex with him. Okay, well, I guess when she was a younger girl, you know. So Trump is definitely a part of it, and that's why you're never going to get the Epstein files, you know, at least not willingly by the United States government. Okay, I foresee it coming out anyway by a foreign state that has, you know, that are enemies with America, and America has plenty of enemies, you know. So, you know, when we're gonna see how these things develop, but we know that this ceasefire is not gonna last very long at all, okay? And it's definitely not gonna last, period, because we already know what the prophecy says, man. You know, Iran is a part of that coalition of nations that's gonna come down in the Valley of Decision. They're gonna be part of those nations that cross the Euphrates and then go down there to fight, man. You know, the scriptures say they're gonna waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. Now, you know, that could be twofold. We know that you know, Assyria can be likened to Babylon the Great, but we also know that region of Syria today is also the hot spot where the Lord said this thing would go down. That's why the Euphrates, it's basically west of the Euphrates is the land of Syria, even though, you know, parts of it may still be technically modern day Iraq, you know, or modern day Lebanon or whatever, you know. And the ancient maps are not the same as the maps today, but basically that area west of the Euphrates is where a lot of the judgment's gonna go down, man. You know, so with Israel basically having their plan, you know, as the new chiefs of the Middle East, the so-called Middle East, you know, you can see it clearly. If I were able to pull up a map right now, I could show you all 7 countries that they've taken down. And when you look at the countries that they've taken down, they're basically trying to control the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf of Aqaba and the Gulf of Suez. Okay, which I believe Egypt controls the Gulf of Suez, but the Gulf of Aqaba, the Israelis have a chance to control that as well. Now, when you look at the Red Sea, you'll see it look like a peace sign, like 2 fingers going up. You know, now one of them is the Strait of is the Suez Canal, and the other one is the one of Aqaba. All right, and they have a plan to make that strait in the land of Israel. Well, really, it was technically Gaza, but we know what happened there. All right, they took that, and that's part of the plan. So they have a path to control. They want King Solomon's old kingdom set up, man, because King Solomon, he controlled and he ran all of that, but you know, back in his day, man. You know, he had a whole pipeline where he controlled that Gulf region, and he had ships going back and forth to America, and that land over there in America, it controls global trade. Okay, so if they're able to secure that, okay, they took down Sudan, which borders that area. They took down Somalia, all right. They took down Libya, which is part of on the south side of the Mediterranean, okay, and they took down Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, okay. And the only country that's left, because Saudi Arabia is already compromised by small hats, the only country that's left is Iran. If they take down Iran, they'll control the whole Arabian Peninsula. When you look at it on the map, I have to show it to you what I'm talking about, okay? But they would control all of the trade, and they're talking about right now just alone, if the Strait of Hormuz was to close, because Iran's threatening that, that's about 20% of all the world's oil, just that strait alone. Okay, that's a lot of money right there. Okay, and that's ultimately what they want. They want to have King Solomon's kingdom, you know, in the modern world, but it's not going to happen. Okay, they had no intention of just showing up to the land in 1948 because they were oppressed and kicked out of every country, which they were getting kicked out, but because they were wicked, you know. But that has nothing to do with why they were placed there in 1948. No, this is a British colony, okay, that was set up, that was meant to colonize the so-called Middle East, just like the project of the English coming over here in America. All right, that was to colonize the Americas, man. You know, that's why they came over here, man. They weren't fleeing the crown or religious persecution. You know, they came here to conquer. Okay, that, like the scriptures say in Revelation 6, it was given unto him a great sword, okay, to take peace from the earth. All right, that's exactly what he's doing. You know, so for those that have eyes to see, you'll see exactly what's going on. You're not gonna buy the fact that they're just afraid of them having nukes, because you more than likely you got nukes flying around on the black market right now, man. You know, you think they're worried? You know, because they have technology to know where nuclear weapons are. See, they have satellites up there, man, and nuclear weapons have a lot of radiation coming off of them. So you have a satellite that can just straight up detect nukes from all the way out up in the heavens. Okay, so this idea that they're worried about nukes flying off, they're not, man. Some of their biggest enemies have nukes. North Korea has nukes, but they're not threatening to overthrow them. You know, you got to ask yourself why. So all of these podcast guys, these news commentators, they got part of it right in the sense that they know that they're up to something, that they want regime change, but they don't see the bigger picture. Okay, that this guy is really the devil. There's no such thing as countries and borders when it comes to this guy. He's already removed all of the borders of the earth and renamed half of it. You know. And if you let him, he'll do the whole thing, man. He'll destroy the entire earth, man. Anyway, I've been going on long enough. You know, I just wanted to give that update that this thing is getting hot, and you know, although it may calm down for a little bit, we know that ultimately World War III is essentially started, and we're just waiting for the major prophecies to come to pass. Look stateside, okay, for, you know, potential false flags to happen, or sleeper cells and that business, because the next order of business is to get these people chipped, okay? And they're gonna need a reason to convince everybody to do it, just like they needed a reason to convince you to sign off on the Patriot Act, you know? So that's coming next. Stay tuned. All right, anyway, I'll end it there, man. Lord willing, this was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rachakodash Shalom Kwam Yasharallah.